Hello, this is Pastor Frank Lewis again, uh, sharing with you about the key. And as you recall from last week, that we talked about the solution, the key. You know that the problem comes from the way we're treated in childhood by our parents. They brought us pain. Satan uses pain very skillfully. He is very good at what he does. And as you heard from Ofelia, there were some very difficult times for her. But one of the things that I wanted you to know is that there is a solution. We know what the problem is. We know that there's broken people. We're going to talk a little bit, Ofelia and I, about some of her other situations that she was involved in with her mother and when she was a child. And also we're going to talk about her experiences with leaders and other people as to their situation and how they lead and how broken leaders don't do well in helping other people become more whole. So, Ofelia, good to have you back again.
Thank you.
For the second part. And, we've been talking about the childhood situation, and you mentioned to me that you actually had a little more difficult time than you'd shared the first last week. And that was, I want you to share that just because any of you out there that can relate to Ophelia's situation, what she went through with her mother, you're going to know that if Ofelia can get healed, you can get healed. And that's why we're doing this. We're going a little deeper here because I want you to, if this happened to you, if you got beaten by your mother or father, if you were, things happened in that realm, if you will, then we want you to have hope. We want you to know that she's getting healed and gotten healed, and so you can too. So, Ofelia, tell us, oh my gosh, tell us what happened with your mom.
Okay.
When you had the flu one time.
Oh, yes. We were staying at my aunt's house in Los Angeles. Myself, my mother, and another sister of mine. My mother was going through the change of life, and she was very hot-headed, and she would give us regular beatings whether we needed it or not. And the way we would get disciplined is that she would literally hit us out of anger with a belt, or actually the orange racetrack thing from Hot Wheels.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Is that right? Oh
yes, so she would hit us with those until she was literally out of breath, couldn't do it anymore. And she would go get these B12 shots to give her energy, and we would say, "Oh, watch out! Watch out when she, gets that," because we knew we were going to get it. Well, anyway, we were at my aunt's house. I had fallen ill with the flu. I stayed home from school. We were literally living there because she and my stepfather were having problems. So, anyway, I stayed home from school, and my mother was gone. She had taken a job. And I began to get sick. And I was crying because I was really worried about how ill I was. And my aunt, who had a small child, maybe 2 years old at that time, in her arms, she told my mother when she got home from work that I had frightened her child because of my crying and throwing up. And so when my mother heard that, she got very angry, and she told me to get up from my sickbed and proceeded to beat me till no tomorrow and told me to start cleaning the house. By the grace of God, God gave me the strength to do so because I had been quite ill. And I got well after that, and I know it was a hand of God on my life, but it was so unmerciful. It was so hurtful that she would do that to me. To me, it was beyond my comprehension of cruelty, even though I was used to regular cruelty from my mother. This was beyond the pale, even so.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, that was
That's
hard.
That's really hard. That's really hard. You told me that sometimes she would beat you until you bled.
Oh, well, on this one occasion, it was my stepfather who
Oh,
found a
okay.
reason to give me a beating.
Oh, geez.
Took his belt off and proceeded to whip me with it. And I remember I got a mark on my arm because it did bleed. And then we had an issue because they would take my babysitting money, 3/4 of it.
Oh,
They wouldn't spend their own money on me, so I babysat and to buy myself clothing and some necessities, and they said I had to contribute to the household, and he would literally take about 3/4 of my money.
Oh my gosh.
And so anyway, I became a little bit rebellious at that time, and I don't know what I had done, but after that whipping, I remember I ran away, and my best friend lived next door. So it wasn't that far, and they knew where I was. And after a couple of weeks of that, they had had enough. And so they called the police. And the police came, and they saw that I wasn't being cooperative, so the police said he was going to take me down to the station, which he did. When they began to question me, I showed him my arm. I told him the circumstances under which I was living. My 2 older sisters had each tried to commit suicide or by taking pills because of our situation at home. And so they thought better of taking me to juvenile hall and instead placed me in what was called a receiving home for a good 2 weeks. Nobody knew where I was except for my parents, of course. And after that time, I had a court hearing, and the judge was to decide if I was to be placed in a foster home or to go back home with my parents.
Oh my gosh.
And I had wanted to be put in a foster home at that point.
That bad.
But I thought, gosh, it's like throwing the dice. You don't know if you're going to be worse off.
Correct. Sure.
And so out of fear, I was sort of relieved when the judge said I needed to go back home. And he also said that we were going to have mandatory counseling. The counselor was to come into our home and observe. And on one such occasion, she came. And she intervened when she saw my mother being abusive towards us.
Gosh.
And at that point, my mother turned on her, screaming at her, and told her to get out of the house.
Oh, no.
So that was the end of the counseling.
That was the end of counseling.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Well, you mentioned that you had done counseling with your husband.
Yes.
And you mentioned that, the counselor said you should get a divorce,
Yeah.
which is not very helpful. Did you also, have been through deliverance
Yes.
and inner healing?
Yes.
Yeah, and so this that we do has actually done more for you than any of that. That's what I'm hearing?
That is correct.
Yeah.
That is so correct, because the problem is, even after deliverance, you're still believing some lies.
Yeah.
And in order to get healed, you got to get those lies out.
Yep. Got to get out, get changed what you believe about yourself.
Yes.
And so, well, one of the things that you had shared with the group, with our audience, is that how valuable this has been for you.
Yes.
And could you share a little bit more,
Yes,
a little deeper,
I would
with
love to.
how valuable it's been?
Well, what it has done for me, it has given me a lot more empathy for others. It's helped me to learn to listen more
Yes.
instead of just be triggered. And it's helped me to have empathy for people when they're going through things or even as they're sharing. It's helped me to listen better. It's helped me to be clearer in what I hear for myself from the Lord.
Yes.
And it's helped me to be clearer in what I hear for others, all of which has brought me much more joy in my
Oh,
life,
yeah. Much more joy.
much more peace and joy.
So would you say that our working in the group and what the group has done for you is really life-changing?
Yes, I would say so. I would say that I have really come light years from where I was. And as a result of that, my relationships have gotten better. So,
And when you have better relationships, you enjoy being with people more, right?
and people enjoy being with me more.
That's a good point.
Which, isn't that what we all want?
Yes.
We want to be loved and to love others.
Yeah.
Yes, and so this has been a good tool for me.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's really great. It's great to hear that. And you know, if you've been in a situation like Ofelia, where you've gotten beaten or you've been, abused in ways that, are just hard to even believe, then just know that the reason I had Ofelia on this program is so that you would know that if God can do it for Ofelia, He can do it for you. And so you can come away from this program, from listening to Ofelia, and hear and know, you've heard her say that her life is different, that her life has changed, that this is a life-changing experience doing the work of the key, the work that we do in the group and the work that we do in soul redemption. So Ofelia has once again proved, like Jessica did, that this in fact is a very, very powerful and dramatic result that can come from the work that we do. Ofelia, I want to ask you a couple of questions about leaders, because we both work with leaders, and you're very involved as an intercessory prayer person with leaders. What would you say has been your experience with leaders, either pastors or other ministry leaders? What has been your experience?
Well, the first thing I want to say is I have a lot of respect for leaders and the demands that leadership in ministry puts on them, and just respect for their office that they hold, whether it's pastor, whether it's prophet or whatever. I want to start by that. But what I have seen is that oftentimes, because of their own wounding, that sometimes I see a lack of character. They have the gifting, certainly, but sometimes not the character to match it. And so what ends up happening is people end up getting hurt. I've been hurt by people in ministry myself, and so I know what it feels like. So I personally would love to see more leaders get healed. And the common thing that is used right now is deliverance, as Frank said. Not to say that's not good. It's all good.
It's all good, yeah.
But there's another part of that deliverance that that Frank has that is the key. It goes hand in glove with deliverance. So we would love to see more churches, more leaders get involved in the key, and knowing that they would have a tremendous result for themselves and for the congregation also.
Yeah, that's really important, is that we recognize that leaders that we look up to, most of the time, I think you probably have done this, I certainly have, we look up to the leaders that are leading us. And the problem is if they're wounded, and they are, they're going to slip and fall, they're going to make mistakes. You talked about being hurt
Yes.
by ministries. If you have experienced being hurt by a ministry, or being hurt by a pastor or a prophet, maybe getting a word and the word never came to pass, and you got disappointed, or even if you've left the church, even if you have said, well, I can get along with people, but not God's people. What we want you to know is that we get it. We understand that leaders that are broken can hurt people. But what we want you to also know is that's not what God's about. God is not going to have people hurting other people, except that when they're not healed, then they're going to do that. So God's best, and I was just reading in the Word the other day about love. 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Love, without love, it's like a clanging cymbal, and
Right.
it doesn't work. So one of the things that we've done in the group is we've structured a way for people to get loved, and that's one of the things that we are hoping that we can get this into other churches and other leadership avenues, so that we can have leaders that will get more healed, so that there won't be this kind of church hurt and spiritual abuse that takes place oftentimes now. And the key to that, once again, is really them getting healed. And so if you've been spiritually hurt, if you've been spiritually abused, if things have happened for you, just know that we have to forgive. We have to forgive those people that have hurt us. And when we do forgive them, then we need to pray for them, and pray that they get emotional healing. Pray that they actually end up with something along the lines of what the key is all about. Send them a book. Get a book in their hands. You can get it on Amazon. By the way, if you want help, you can come to joystones.org. That's the website for my ministry, joystones.org, and it has a button there. Just press it. That will give you an opportunity to email me, and I'll get back to you. It may take a little while. We have a lot of people emailing, but the idea here is that we want you to know that you can be healed, but the people that you are ministered to by can be healed also. And we've seen some of that. We have leaders coming,
Yes.
a number of you leaders, and they're getting healed, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, and it's pretty exciting, isn't it?
Yes, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful to see.
It is beautiful. And, one of the things that leaders have a problem with is they just don't have a place to dump, to share, to be real, to be known and accepted and approved. And we do that at our group, don't we?
Yes, yes.
And we actually have people that are having a place to share, having a place to talk about their problems and not get fixed or challenged or told what to do, or, many of the leaders that we know or we talk to, they're a little concerned about talking to their congregation about it, because, they could get, that could be a problem.
Sure.
But it's really good that they can come to our group. Tell the audience a little bit about your experience with the leaders at our group.
Well, the beauty of the group is whatever is said in group is totally confidential.
Yes.
And doesn't get taken outside of the group.
Yes.
So there's a freedom there to really be able to go deep and share some of the horror stories that we all have, and know that it's not going to be, that confidentiality is not going to be violated. That is so important. And I think that is a building block
Yeah.
for the success of our groups.
Yeah.
And the leaders are able to come and have the freedom to share and to know that it's not going to be taken outside. And so they're able to go a lot deeper and share what wouldn't be shared to, say, maybe a confidant, not a confidant, but just a friend or a casual acquaintance, or even somebody that they would never share with. I mean, because obviously, there's things that they wouldn't want known. So in that, they have a lot of peace. And the result is, by going deep and by seeing others go deep on their sharing, they're really able to get some of those wounds out on the table and be affirmed and be loved, and when they get mirrored back on what they said. So they really are feeling heard, just like the rest of us in the group.
Yeah.
Maybe some people for the first time in their life, because I know that in my life, I didn't have a voice. I wasn't allowed to have an opinion. I wasn't allowed to express it. So for many people, they deal with that. They deal with other people, whether it be a spouse or maybe a parent that...
or even your children.
Or your children that
Yeah.
withhold love from you, that haven't been, the model child, the model spouse or parent. And there's somewhere safe you can go with all of that pain and all of that hurt. There's no need to continue to suffer in silence or do what I did, go from counselor to this or that, and really have no result and not be understood. I've always felt that my experiences and what I had been through and the complexities of having marital issues in a blended family was really and truly above the pay grade of these counselors.
Yeah.
And it's sorry to say, but there's a lot of counseling being done out there by a lot of very unqualified people.
Yeah.
And it serves to do a lot of damage to people, unbeknownst to the victims,
Right.
in their lives. They're not getting free, they're not getting heard, they're not getting mirrored, and it's not a safe environment, because what they're sharing is, they think in confidence, and it turns out that it's not being held in confidence. So these are very serious issues, and we're dealing with lives, and lives are of utmost importance, especially to God.
Absolutely.
And so one needs to be very careful. And so that's what I love about our groups. That's what I love about the Key. That's what I love about Pastor Frank, that he realizes the seriousness of what we're dealing with people and their lives and their issues.
Well, that's one of the, I've been a pastor, so I know what that's like. The one thing that like you said earlier, was the gifts are and callings of God are without repentance. So these people have leaders, have great gifts, but like you said, they lack character. Character it comes from healing. You got to be healed in order to be able to have self-control, gentleness, kindness, and the fruits of the Spirit. So we've got to get healing. Healing is the key. Emotional healing is the key to a better life. There's just no question. And we've seen it in our groups.
Yes.
We've seen it with people that have had a place to share, had a place to be known at a deep level, and still loved, accepted, and approved. The leaders are actually having great results, aren't
Yes, yes, they really are.
they?
They're growing.
And that's what we're after. And we just want you to know, as we close the program today, that this key, which I'm going to explain to you in depth in the weeks ahead, wants you to know that it works. It absolutely works. Ophelia is an example. Jessica's an example. I have other people that are examples that have had tremendous results. And so the real thing that we want to leave with you today, Ophelia and I are really here to be able to bring you hope. Hope that you can have a better life. Hope that things can change. Hope that things can get much better for you in your marriage, in your family, at your work, in your church experience. Everything can get better when there's emotional healing. So as I said before, if you want to know more, you can buy the book. You can come to joystones.org, leave your name, and I will get back to you. And you will know that there's a way to be able to have emotional healing, and your life can get much better. All your relationships can get much better, and you can prosper and have the abundant life that Jesus talked about. In John 10:10, he said, I came to give you life and life more abundantly. So I thank Ophelia, and I want to say to you, how about you having the abundant life? And we're going to dig deeper in the weeks ahead so that you can have that life that Jesus said you could have. An abundant life, blessings in every area of your life. So God bless, and we'll see you next